Hey everybody. Um, Me again, and this is not a rare time that I actually do two videos in one day. Um, as you can probably tell, my voice is just still a little bit messed up. I just took my allergy meds before I started doing this, and um, I think this video is actually I'm gonna let you know a little bit about me, who I am, and kind of my background here, so that you can kind of understand more of why I'm doing this. Um, so my story begins with everyone's story, birth, but it's a little bit different. Um, with the fact that my biological mother was a heavy alcoholic drinker, and heavy drug user. Both my father and my mother were. Um, they were heavy alcoholic drinkers and drug abusers. When my mom was pregnant with my older brother, and the same with me, and I think at least three other of my other brothers or half brothers. Um, so for me, if you've ever seen the videos of what are called cocaine babies, they come out and they're shaking violently. They're shaking violently because they're going through withdrawal, and the only way to stop that, if you see the videos of it, it's scary. It's horrifying. Um, the only way to stop them do that is to wean them off of the withdrawal with opioids and all that. But that was me. I was a cocaine baby, and when it comes to growing up, um, I had fetal alcohol syndrome. I have ADD. I still do. um, Lots of side effects from um, the drug and alcohol. Excuse me. The drug and alcohol abuse. Um, when my mom was pregnant with me and my brother, he has side effects too. Now, growing up, when I was in kindergarten, actually, I should say, in when I was 3 years old, I was placed into the adoption system. Me and my older brother, and what had happened was the Native American family that I know of, we we were taken from our mom's care into Native American family. So from the age of 1 to 3, um, we were in some other family members' care, and then from 3 years old on, we were into the adoption system. Well, 3 years old up until I think I was 10, so 7 years. So my adopted mom, who I've stayed in that family since I was 3, um, we were put into foster care, went to them, and I remember several times me and my brother would go, and the social worker would take us and say, "Hey, we're gonna go visit your mom because she still lived in town here." I'm so sorry for the coughing. Um, I had to pause it for a second because I had to quick do a coughing fit just to kind of get whatever mucus was out. So we would go see our mom, and I remember three distinct times that we went to go see our mom. Um, in two different places here in town, and actually, I can point out exactly what houses they were at, even to this day. But one one place I need to figure out if there was, and I tried to ask one of my other family members once if there was any um, of my aunt's daughters, which would have been my cousin, maybe a year or two older than me. She'd be in her 40 or 41. Because I remember visiting my mom and there was like chicken. They made chicken. And as we were eating the chicken, I remember as we're eating it, there was like the bones left, but we were playing with the bones. And I remember the one girl was like, chicken bone, bone, bone. And we were laughing. We thought it was hilarious. And, but that's kind of all I really remember from that visitation. Um, Another time was going back to visit her again at the same place, and the social worker kept knocking on the door, knocking on the door, and no one was answering, no one was answering. Um, of course, like I said, my mom was a heavy alcoholic, so more than likely she was passed out. Um, and then we're just kind of brought back to the foster family that later I ended up getting adopted into. The third visit was in a different house, and at that point, my younger brother Kyle had been born. Excuse me. And he was, oh, maybe a year at that point. So I would have been about maybe four or five, I think. Probably between 4 and 5. And we went to go see our mom. And I remember she was putting on a little Mickey Mouse outfit on my brother Kyle. And she looked at me and she said, Thomas, isn't he cute? And I was like, yeah. But one thing that I always remember that my mom would call me, she would call me Tom Mouse. I'm not exactly sure why, but she would call me Tom Mouse. So, um, and then we were playing around. I remember going upstairs. There was a TV on upstairs, and we were just kind of playing around. And then the visitation was done, and we went back. I'm so sorry, but there was a time before my biological mom, had signed over her parental rights, where she had told the social worker, she had said, I'll do anything to get my boys back, except for giving up alcohol. And yes, that is sad. The problem is that me and my brother, and probably my brothers, were our value was compared to an inanimate object, a bottle of beer. And now, when because I'm 38 years old and I look back on it, it's like, my mom was so lost in the alcohol abuse and the drug abuse that she did not know where her priorities actually were. So, being with the foster family, um, we had our birthdays, years went by, and it came down to when we were going to be adopted into the same family that I'm adopted into. And they had said, even up to the day we had gone to the Standing Rock Reservation. We went to Fort Yates a couple of times. And it was to kind of make sure all the paperwork went through everything through the tribe, was going through all of that, through the judges, that everything was legal, that, my adopted mom was going to be perfectly fine in adopting us boys. And all the way up until the very day we were in the courthouse, we were sitting there, and it had gotten up to the very moment. They're like, okay, well, it's whatever time it was. I can't remember. I'd have to ask my mom. Whatever time it was. And even the judge had said, do you mind waiting another half an hour just in case a family member comes in and wants to adopt the boys? And my adopted mom's like, sure, let's, go ahead and wait. They, the Native American, tribes, they want to keep Native American children with their families. But even my Native American family didn't want me and my older brother. They passed on that. So I remember in the courtroom, the judge had asked me, your last name is going to change. Do you want to change your first name? And of course, me being 10 years old, I didn't really know what that meant. I'm just like, no. So I had an option to actually change my first name. It wouldn't have, if I knew what they were talking about, I'd be like, oh, let me think about it here quick. But because I didn't, my name stayed to Thomas. And they went through the whole motions, signed the paperwork, got it all legalized, everything. It was a good day. And so we went back home. Everything was great. Sorry, I bumped I was getting this. Life was going on. Now, from that point on, like, I didn't see my mom. I hadn't seen my mom since, when was that? Since I was maybe 5 or 6, something like that. And so time goes on, things are going on, but as we went on, see, I've had these glasses. I've had glasses since I was a kindergartner. Because back then, contact lenses had just barely been invented. And contact lenses were only for people with just a very, very slight change in vision. Nothing that had to do with people with astigmatism. And when, and the reason why, because the fetal alcohol syndrome, and when my mom was pregnant with me, when she was doing the drugs and alcohol, she was doing it in the phases of like when my eyes were developing. And that caused why my vision was so bad by the age of kindergarten. So I was like 5 years old. And so years go on, having to use these glasses. The ADD that I had was pretty bad. Now, the great thing about my adopted mom was she had put so much time and effort to get me the care and school care and everything for me. By the winter of 1991, 1992, my adopted dad, which actually at that point, you can say adopted dad now because I'm adopted into the family, but at the time I had not been adopted into the family yet. But I can say adopted dad, he had passed away. So my adopted mom had been the only one to care for me and my brother. And I wish my adopted mom, had not thrown away the calendars that she had kept for so many years because I saw them once. I never paid attention to them until after I graduated high school. Um, I saw them once, and I wanted to show people how crazy busy she was. Some people think you're busy just by going to work, doing a couple things here and there, and then coming home. My mom was busy every single day with appointments every single day. It wasn't just Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, here's an appointment. No, the only day she had off was Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all were appointments. Appointments, scheduling on things, all this other stuff. Like, it was crazy. And I saw that one time. I'm like, what in the world? And mind you, by the time we got adopted, um, let's see here. I'm 38, and I was she was like in her mid 50s. I don't want to completely do the math because I don't. She was in her mid 50s by the time she actually adopted me and my brother. So she was late 40s, early 50s when we went into foster care, and it's amazing what she accomplished. Like, she is a wonderful woman because she had been a foster parent for many years. She had fostered hundreds, over 100 kids in that time. Um, she had said some were there, for the night. Some were there for a couple hours. Some were there for months. Depending on what went on. And what's interesting is that as time went on, like I said, she spent a lot of time making sure that I was the one who was having the hardest time in school. With things, I was always shy. Believe it or not, I didn't want to look anybody in the eye, even up until my senior year. Um, and as I was younger, here's an interesting story with that. When me and my brother were younger, and I'm talking like 6, 7 years old, um, everybody thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't want to look people in the eye. I didn't want to. I was always hiding. Now my older brother was always the one who's going up there. It's like, yeah, shaking their hands. Hi, how's it going? Little adult. People thought he was a little adult. They thought it was great. So they thought there was something wrong with me. But my grandma, she was like, no, there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with my older brother. Because anybody at that age who is so confident to go up to people, there's something wrong with that. They shouldn't be that confident. So there's something wrong with my older brother. Like, she didn't trust that. She's like, he's fine. He doesn't trust people until he knows that he can trust people. And my grandma was right. See, as we grew older, um, my brother was always good in school. He was always good at a lot of stuff that he did. He was shorter than me, but he was kind of the poster child for both of us. For me, I had a hard time with school. And I actually now can tell people the reason why I had a hard time with school was because the teachers were boring. They did not make it interesting for me. And this kind of goes even with my adult life. If I am going to be educated by somebody, please make it interesting. Don't be boring. Okay? Do not be boring. Um, and I know when it comes to even these videos here, I hope I'm not boring. I hope I'm kind of throwing these messages out in a decent way so it's not like all right, everybody, here's what's going on. Um, but being taught something, for me, I cannot have a boring teacher. I'm going to be like, okay, buddy, either just tell me what it is, how to do it. I'll figure it out later. I'll ask you questions, but don't, you're boring me. I'm not going to want to learn if it's boring me. And that's how it was. That's why I had such a hard time with school, because the teacher would go on this board. Okay, here we're going to do this. Here's the first five things of the paper. I'm like, okay, good. I get this one. I get this one. But eventually I would see the equations or the math, and I'm like, wait a minute. I see how your thing worked for these, but this one, I can't see how it works. And they would get frustrated with me because I'm like, I'm stuck on it. I'm like, I don't see it. But of course, me being so shy and like thinking I was going to be in trouble if I didn't get it. Now, if I don't get it, I'm like, hey, I don't get this. What do you don't get about it? If someone tries to come at me with something, I'm going to say, hey, it's your fault for being boring when you're teaching me. If you don't know how to teach better than this, then get out of here. Because if I learn what you're doing, I'm going to be the one teaching someone else, and I'm going to get them to learn it way better than you can. I'd come at people now. Totally different than when I was in school. But I digress. Um, and throughout high school, and my mom had tried so many times, I had been on so many medications to correct the ADD. And there had finally been one combination of medications that worked. And it was in my senior year, all up in this time. My mom was getting so frustrated because she's like, money incentives didn't work, reward incentives didn't work. Even the school was like, how are we going to get this kid to learn? And they still haven't learned how to get kids to learn. This is why when it comes to me teaching anybody anything, it's like, here's how we do this. I'll show you. And I'll make sure that when you're with me, you're gonna be with me. Ask me the questions. This isn't hard, but just kind of follow my lead. We're gonna do this. I want you to do it while I do it, because then you'll get the hang of it. I'm not gonna say, okay, this is what you do, and good luck. You know, they're gonna go with what they think and then expect it to be okay. But um, it was finally in my senior year that the right combination of medications to help my ADD. And it was during the class that I was taking um, business and money management. Now, for someone who has ADD and is literally getting D's and F's and maybe a C all through my grades. So trust me, I was not a star student by any means. I was on that lower. C's are my best, maybe a B minus if I really was, concentrating. But it was all D's and F's. Like, people were like, how do we get him to pass without just passing him? That's kind of what they had to do, was just pass me. I did half the work that I knew how to do. I said, here, I can't do the other. I'm going to fail half of this anyway, so I might as well not give you half of it. And they're always like, oh, you got to try. Yeah, I'm not going to try if I know I'm going to fail at it anyways. And that's where I knew where my uh, boundaries were. Everybody has their boundaries on what they know they can do. I don't like the fact that people want to push their boundaries on their own knowledge. I'm not going to push anybody on what they know they can do. I'm like, all right, how? I asked them, do you know this is as far as you can go? Can we try a little further? Because I want to see if this really is your boundary. If it is your boundary, then great. We will keep it here. If they feel confident to go later on, then great. We'll continue with that. But people were so like, we got to push him. We got to push him. Quit pushing people. Anyways, this is where my ADD comes in. I'll go on side tangents. Anyways, so business and money management, halfway through that class, I was already struggling, but I had to take the class to get the credits. in high school to graduate as a senior. Now, this was in the second half of the year. And as a senior, the teacher of business and money management was concerned for me. She's like, I don't know if he's going to pass. And this is what, when they made this switch to the right combination of medications for me, when I started taking it, it was literally almost a overnight change. Because on one day I couldn't get it. The next day I looked at it like, wait a minute, we're doing this and this and this together. Oh, I get it. I get the, hold on, let me just do, boom. And I did the next one, boom. And I did the next one, boom. I'm like, okay, this should be right. And when I handed it in, I said, here you go. And the teacher looked at us, she's like, oh, yeah. And she's like, I had to give you the benefit of the doubt because I didn't think you were going to pass. And I'm like, the combination of this stuff is what helped me concentrate on this. And business and money management, I got to tell you, I'm very disappointed in how people use their money. I'm very disappointed because I know how to budget everybody. You tell me how much you're making, I'll tell you how much you can spend and still have money left over. But people squander money like it ain't like there ain't no tomorrow, and they cry about, oh, I don't have money. I could spend your money and still have you have lots of money left. That's the curse that I have from this class, from when my combination of medication kicked in, is because I know business and money management better than half the businesses in my town. I look at what they're doing. I'm like, why is that expensive? Well, because of this. Have you ever thought about this? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, try it. I guarantee you're going to make money hand over fist if you do it this way. If you look at it this way, do this. When I worked at the gas station, we only had one icing machine with 4 flavors. I went to a city an hour away, went to their Super America, and they had 2 icing machines that had 8 flavors. Went back to my job and said, hey, have we ever tried to convince the upper management to let us have 2 icing machines with 8 flavors? She's like, no. And I'm like, you probably should. See if you can't get 2 icing machines. Why? Because we know that ices in the summer are the biggest hit that we have. They're the biggest money makers that we have. Next to cigarettes. Get 2 icing machines, get 8 flavors. People are gonna flock in here on the summer on the summer days, and knowing that we have 8 flavors, they're gonna continue to come around even in the winter, even in the fall, even in the spring. Guess what? They now have 2 icing machines and 8 flavors all the time. Because I knew how to get them to make money. I know how to get people to make money. The problem is I don't. Why? Because people don't want to be told how to spend their money. But I'll tell you this, if you have a 2 income household, you can always make it. Trust me. You can always make it. Without a problem. You really can. I'm not saying that to be insensitive about what people are having to spend or do anything like that, but I honestly, if I can make it with a house, a 2 bedroom house, with me having a part-time job, doing acting and modeling and helping my neighbor out with paper route every now and then, still being able to do this as a single parent, not having any help from the government whatsoever. I do not get food stamps. I do not get cash aid. I do not get any assistance at all. Everything I have to pay out of pocket. If I can do that as a single parent and still have to pay my ex child support, a 2 income household can certainly make it. Anyways, so let's go back to high school. Now, during high school, um, during youth group in church. I grew up going to church, and as I grew up in that church, it was fantastic. It was fine. I actually have fond memories of growing up in that church, and it was a fantastic church back then. But as time went on, the church kind of went a different way. But there was a time where we were going to Ecuador, and this was at the end when I was a senior in high school, and we were going to go to Ecuador for a missions trip in 2005. I graduated in 2005. Um, we were all figuring out what our part was in this um, youth group missions trip. What everybody's going to do, my youth pastor could juggle. Some other people could sing, some other people could do the dance, whatever. And he's like, "Hey, does somebody want to learn how to do magic?" Nobody raised their hands. I was like, "Sure, I'll learn how to do magic. Simple sleight of hand and stuff like that." And I still have that DVD of the magic and the very first trick that I learned. I still have it. And I learned how to do card tricks. I learned how to do rope tricks. I learned how to do lots of tricks. Predominantly, by the time we left for Ecuador, it was all mostly card tricks that I learned how to do. Um, and then he tells me, "Hey, Thomas, just so you know, they're not too keen on card tricks because they see it as a form of witchcraft." I'm like, "Oh, well, there goes 90% of the stuff that I know how to do. I still know how to do some rope tricks and stuff like that, but I was like, well, we'll see." So I still brought some cards down with me. I brought some ropes down with me. I brought some stuff down with me, and an amazing experience. Now, fast forwarding through the years, um, I've had friends come and go. I've had friends who I've been best friends with for many, many years suddenly leave. And as I grew up, um, I went to go live down in California in 2009. And it was the biggest decision at that moment in my life to go down to California to live with this woman. She had 3 kids, one 10-year-old or 9-year-old, I think, at the time, and then 2 teenagers. And biggest decision I ever made. I will tell you though, it's 2 years because I came back in 2011, May 2011, and I gotta tell you, it's 2 years I can't get back. There are some good memories of it, but it's not. I can't get back those memories. I can't get back those 2 years, unfortunately. Um, but lesson learned from that. From that point, I had other girlfriends. When I came back, I had my own apartment that I saved up for. Um, After that, I had worked a couple jobs. Excuse me. And thought I fell in love a couple times. Didn't ultimately. Um, then in 2014, I met a woman, and for 7 years, her and I were together. And for 7 years, I should say, well, I should say, yeah, for 7 years. Her and I were together, and we bore a daughter and son. Which you've seen. And then she decides she doesn't want to be with me. And that was in 2021. So that is going to, that was I kind of expected something was going on, but I had prepared myself because over the years, what I do is if something affects me right away, if there's something that affects me, like whether it be a death, whether it be um, a breakup or whatever, it will never ever affect me the same way. Because at that point, my mind is like, okay, if this happens once, it surely can happen again. So I had almost prepared in my mind because I saw signs. And I was like, okay. So her and I break up. We had a plan. The plan failed. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a house for me and my kids. I didn't tell her what was going on. I just bought a house for me and my kids. I went through the motions of getting a loan, looking for the houses, finding the house, and getting the house. I didn't actually tell her up until the very day I was moving in. I said, hey, just so you know, today is a day I have bought my house. I am moving in my house right now. So I was hoping to have been completely moved in and said, hey, I'm going to have the kids for the weekend. And I blindsided her with it. Now, some of you might think, why would you do that? Well, given the fact that everything that was going on um, through that year of 2022, she was on a very, very steep down decline. And she wasn't feeding the kids when she was supposed to. She would wait for me to get back from work. Then she would go to work, and I'd have to feed the kids. And I'm like, I asked the kids, didn't you eat yet? No, we haven't eaten yet. Mommy hasn't fed us. Oh. But she was off on her world so much that she was neglecting her own family. So I was like, okay, it's time for me to get this going and get this going fast. I don't have time to get her prepared. I have to get me and the kids prepared. Because at that time I kind of already knew that she was going to really go on a decline. Um and she was going to turn into a narcissist, which unfortunately has happened. So after I move in here, after I have the kids for that weekend, um, she kind of went down her way too. The boyfriend that she has now, interestingly enough, I knew him. Him and I were actually friends in third grade. We're the same age, roughly the same age. He's 6 months older than me, 6, 7 months older than me. Um, her life did not go well with him, and it still isn't going well with him. Um, but throughout the time, even before we broke up, she had said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to get you for child support. I'm not going to do this and that and that." Well, I wanted to talk to her about a letter I got because they were trying to get child support from me. She didn't want to talk to me about it. I said, "All right. Well, I don't trust you, and I don't trust your boyfriend." And as of this very day, I told her, I said, "Everybody you and your boyfriend know, I know. everybody that you think you're friends with. I know. And the thing is, they like me better because they work with me. They know who I am. They know the kids. Like, don't think that just because your boyfriend has all these other connections, that those connections don't come back to me. She didn't believe me. But this is the problem. My kids have always wanted to be here with daddy because this house here is a place where they can be themselves. This house here is a place where they've even said that they call it their happy place, their safe place. And as wonderful as I think that is, I like the fact that they want to call this a happy and safe place. They don't consider living with their mom a happy and safe place. There's a lot going on over there. I would prefer that they would like to see both places a happy and safe place, but they don't. My son now, more than ever, has been able to make up his mind on things. He doesn't like leaving daddy's house. Um, and it's because, especially as of recently, I think he's been getting neglected on any attention whatsoever. He's doing things that are just to get attention. And I'm like, these behaviors, I saw them before. Back in 2022, 2023. And it's it saddens me because I'm like, this little boy who should never have to think that he has to try to get attention from a parent is doing that. And when he comes to my house, all my love and attention are on my kids. My daughter's getting to the age where she loves giving her hugs and kisses. And there was a time, and it still breaks my heart. I wasn't able to see my kids for 4.5 months. From the winter of 2022 into late April of 2023. And my daughter would come up to me and she's like, "Can I give you a micro hug?" And I'm like, "What's a micro hug?" And she's like, "It's one of these." And I'm like, I asked her, like, what do you mean? Well, how do you do that? She's like, "Oh, you just do this." And that means we're hugging each other. And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "No, you can give me a hug, baby bird." And I realized that the reason why she did that is because her mom was too busy to hug her. So she thought, "Oh, can I give you a micro hug? And this will be good enough." No, this is never good enough. My son was getting into things because he thought, "Oh, if I start getting into things, you'll pay attention to me." I was like, "Buddy, come here. Come here, buddy. No. Sit on my lap. Hug me. Be with me. I haven't seen you guys in 4.5 months. I want to love on you guys. Come here." You have a whole family that wants to love on you, that you don't ever have to act up to get attention. And so now my daughter's like, "Oh, I want to hug you." I'm like, "All right, come on, give me your huggy." My son is always giving me hugs. I'm like, "Yes, give me your hugs. Give me your love, everybody." I'm never gonna neglect it. And at times I'll just, "Oh, come here," because that's what they want. And sadly, they're not getting it all the time from their mom. Even if their mom is saying, "Oh, yes, I do," I know they're not. Because I see what my kids do when they come to me. When they're so starved for love and attention, I make up for it. And I'm happy to do so. But it's sad that they want to live this lie over there. And I found some very, very disturbing information last weekend. Um, of what's going on, and I've asked the friend of mine if he sees anything that's like it again to make sure that he gets screenshots, possibly video if somebody can. That way, I would be able to um, collect a file of my own. And there's a lot of people, even at my work, they're like, "Hey, maybe this will be a good step in the direction to get your kids in your full-time care, that you can have them permanently." And that's how much people love it when the kids are around me, because they're entertaining, they do things, but at the same time, when I'm like, "Hey, come here," not that I have to snap my fingers, but like, "Oh, come here, come here, come here," they just relax. And they listen. I'll let people know that, I do apologize if they're a little bit hyper today. I need they're I'm trying to get them to burn off some energy. And people are like, "That's fine." But people like my kids because they respect me, and they're rooting for me to have them because of what's going on. Over the last 2 years, unfortunately, my adopted family, like I've said in previous videos, I love them, but there's been some fracture between them and me, or them and I, excuse me, them and I, because of the fact that, um, as for them being Christian, and I have had that Christian upbringing, um, unfortunately, they're not doing what they should be doing. Now, not to say that works and all that are where we get our salvation. It's not. But the fact that my family's just kind of sitting doing nothing, um, without understanding that there is a lot that the Bible commands us to do as Christians. God has our commands that we have to do, and whenever we're able to do it, we should be doing this. But my family has not wanted to help me. Um, and the help that they give is very, very bare minimum. To the point where it's like, "Oh, here, let me help you for today." And that should get you by. No, it won't. But this is why, I've said in other videos too, that as of right now, I have to fully rely on God. Fully rely on God. Because unfortunately, I cannot rely on people. Um, unless they understand the Bible and what God commands us to do as Christians. Um, not to say, like I said, not to say that that's any of the salvation, but we have things that we need to do. And this is why on this channel, you'll never, ever, ever hear me say, "Hey, I need your financial support." I'm never going to say that, ever. Um, because everything that I tell you is free. Everything that I talk to you that's in here is free. There should never be a price on that. There should never, ever be a price, because the only price that was ever paid was Jesus on the cross. And I have had to rebuild my faith in God, rebuild my patience in God, and get rid of all the anger and frustrations. And it was not easy. It wasn't. Everything that I had to go through was not easy. But I'll tell you what, from everything of not seeing my kids for 4.5 months to understanding that whatever's going on this other end, there's a lot of things that hurt me. That hurt me deeply. But I always knew, and I always know, and I always will know that God has been with me the entire time. God knows that we're going to be angry about things. God knows that I've been angry about a lot of things. And God knows that even, on recent times, I've been angry, like, why is this happening, Lord? But I have to remember that He has been with me. And with things that have recently come about, I have to be patient. We all have to be patient with God. Because what happens and the things that are revealed to us, we may feel it, we may feel emotional attachment to it, but when we know that God is in control, when we know that God has a plan of what's going on, it's so much better to say, okay, even though that should have hurt me worse than it does, I know that God knows the stuff that's going on. God knows my financial um, situation. He knows your financial situation. He knows your mental situation, your emotional situation, your spiritual situation. He knows everything that you're going through. That's why it hurts Him as much as it hurts you. So, me having to renew my faith and my strength and my patience was very, 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 very vital to today as I'm bringing this to you because of information that I discovered last weekend. And now I have um, an even more stronger view of what God's plan is. And I'm like, okay, you really do know. God really does know. Through everything that's gone on, God really does know. And He always, always, always cares. And it's the best thing that you can rely on, people. It really is. With everything that I had to do research on when it came to trying to get my kids away from that horrible situation, with everything, people turning their backs on me, CPS turning their backs on me, the courts turning their backs on me, my own tribe turning their backs on me, which they shouldn't have. You know who didn't turn their back on me? God. Jesus and God did not turn their back on me. My family didn't know what to do. They've never ever experienced this before. They tried to give me advice, tried to tell me, here, call these people. Didn't make a difference. But today I now see why everyone turned their back on me, because that's who they are. That's the corruption. That's this, oh, well, if we can't do anything, we're just going to not think about it. But God said, while everybody is turned their back on you, turn to me. Because I'm there for you, always. This is why in every video, I pray for everybody who is emotionally, financially, spiritually, mentally, physically struggling. Because I was all of that. And I always am. And until we hear that trumpet, those who haven't made that step, haven't made that decision to trust God, who haven't made that decision that say, hey, I am a sinner. I need a savior. I need out of this feeling, out of this mire, out of this muck. God doesn't promise a perfect life. I do not have a perfect life by any means. I am struggling always, and I will never be that person who says, hey, look at the grand stuff I have. This thing here, that's a backdrop. It's a it's a sheet I found that I use for a backdrop to do my auditions. I'm never guaranteed a lead role, except for I actually have a lead role on the 28th of this month for a short film, which, praise God, I got something like that. But my house is a mess because I'm busy all the time. I'm busy doing a lot of other things. I try to keep it as neat as I can. I don't show you everything. Like, you can kind of see my living room right there. But I'm not living this life of, hey, look at all the stuff that I have. You know, we have to occupy and redeem our time. But this is why I'm also spending time to say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I don't come from a wealthy family. I am not wealthy. My kids wish that I am. They're already spending my rich and famous money when I finally do make it big, if we even get to that point, which I don't believe we are. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're struggling and if you want to know where there's hope, there is. And I would love to be that example for you. And if you are a Christian and are coming across this, and you know somebody who is in this, a single father, maybe a single mother, people who are struggling, show them this. Because I want to let them know that, yes, God, I haven't been promised a lavish life by any means. And I'm not living a lavish life. But God has pulled me through, and He's holding my hand through everything. Every single day. And He has given me the peace that passes all understanding, and He can give that to you as well. It's wonderful feeling that. And when it comes to all the stresses and strains of the days, when you have that peace, you're like, I don't have to worry about that. Guide my life, Lord, on what I should do. And you know what? You're going to fall. You're going to stumble, even as a Christian. We all will. But don't beat yourself up over that. Here in our carnal nature, in our carnal bodies, in the bodies that we have, we are going to struggle with our flesh till the day we die or the day that we get taken up. But the wonderful thing is we get a new body. We get a renewed body. That's like Jesus. And I can't wait for that day. I can't wait for that day because then the only thing that I can concentrate on is being with my Lord and worshiping Him. And that's what I want for you guys. Because He's been there with me this entire time. And He's with everybody too. He's there. You just got to ask. You got to seek Him out. If you don't believe, just seek Him out. And if you don't believe He is the one, here's your proof. Here's what you need to do. Go into your Bible. If you have a Bible, just happen to have it, say, hey, Jesus, if you are real, show me. If you are real, show me. And he will. Say, God, if you want me to see something, show me. And he will. He wants you to seek him. Because he wants to show you who he is. So there's your challenge. This is, a little bit, it's an hour long. I'm sorry, it's a long video. But just a little bit about me. There's a lot more about me. But you know what? I think what I'll do with this video is I'm going to actually put my email address in the description. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they certainly can. Whatever title of this video I'll put, but you can say that you saw this video. Not that I'm like a expert at giving advice or whatever, but I can talk with people. I don't mind it. I don't mind talking with people. But anyways, let's go ahead and, let me do a prayer here. And Lord, thank you for impressing upon me to share myself with the viewers here. And like I always pray, Lord, if there's people here who are watching this particular video, I hope they're encouraged, Lord. I hope they're encouraged by what you have done for me in my life. There are many things that I didn't mention in this video, but maybe it's something that they would like to know, later on or in an email or something. Lord, definitely for those who, like I said, have been struggling mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Now they know that I've been there and I'm still going through that, Lord, but you are there with me and you are there with them. You're always going to be there. And you're calling them. Because you're so close. It could be any day, it could be any hour, any minute now that you're saying, Jesus, go get your bride and we'll be called up. Lord, these days are so hard on everybody. And I can't imagine how people are coping without you. So Lord, I pray that you reach more today. That maybe this will also be another extension. And that maybe they want to look through the other videos that I've done. That way they can also know. And hopefully, Lord, for those who are on the fence, maybe they're the ones who are like, I don't know if I can trust in the patience and have the faith in God yet. And maybe my testimony here, my story, is enough to say, you can. And maybe that'll be enough to convince them. And Lord, Continue to watch over all of them. Continue to watch over my kid's mom. I believe she's just so lost, Lord. I don't think she understands where the kids are hurting. I know you're protecting my children. Continue to protect my children. Continue to impress upon her. Lord, I just pray that people are able to see you. But I pray all this in your heavenly name. Amen. Well, like I said, everybody, I'll go ahead and put my email address in the description. I'm actually going to put in also the description the video on why God loves us unconditionally. And like I said, if you know of somebody who is struggling, a single father, a single mother, any of all this, please show them the video, share it. I really hope that this is the kind of video that is enough to get people to understand that yes, there are people who are struggling, even though we are Christian, even though I am forgiven and saved. But this is where my faith in God comes in, and I am fully relying on God to do this stuff. But anyways, everybody have a wonderful night, a morning, or whenever you're watching this day. I've got to talk with my pastor tomorrow morning about some stuff too. But anyways, everybody have a wonderful day. All right.